So, Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery is out, and it's already a lot more interesting in the first 4 episodes than Season 1 was. In Season 1, it was just a bunch of Trump-voting, Brexiting Klingons that went to war with the Federation. And their motivation was they were xenophobic. They didn't want their culture to change, their precious little homogenous culture. But Season 1 was incredibly boring because the situation itself was more or less boring, the characters were boring, and the characters' reaction to the situation was boring. Compare how the characters reacted to the Klingon War in Star Trek Discovery Season 1 to how the characters reacted to the Dominion War in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. You'll find that it's very different, and the Deep Space Nine characters did it better. You saw how much they changed, how they reacted to the war, how it affected them. You didn't see any of that in Season 1 of Star Trek Discovery. And as soon as the war happened in Star Trek Discovery, it ended. Another problem with the first season was it didn't have any of the exploration factor, right? So it didn't feel like Star Trek. The only fun episode of Star Trek Discovery was the Harry Mudd episode. And that just wasn't... I'm sorry, but that was only one episode. Well, that and maybe when they went to the other universe. Some of those characters were kind of fun because they were just fun. But Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery, they've changed it quite a bit. It's, exploration is at the forefront of what this season is about. It's kind of serializing a little bit. There's some kind of mysterious red angel-like alien that they're sort of looking for. There's some squabbling with Spock and Burnham because they're family now, apparently. And there's a few other things that just make it interesting. And the characters are even starting to become a bit more interesting as well. Though in a couple of places the characters, it seems like they're trying to overdo it in a few areas, which it just doesn't work very well. And some of the actors aren't that great in it either. But I do think that Star Trek Discovery changed because of one thing. Seth MacFarlane and his show The Orville, which received better reception among Star Trek fans, myself included, than Star Trek Discovery did. Because The Orville actually felt a lot more like Star Trek, but it had Seth MacFarlane's comedy written all over it. And because it's a comedy, The Orville, they can explore a lot more with it. They can they can have characters based on comedy tropes, and they can have these sort of comedic situations that they're in. Almost like a space sitcom, if you will. Which does give a fresh take on the genre, I believe. But as we see often in Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane's ideas of jokes are usually just a bunch of fast-paced jokes that really don't have much to do with the story that's involved. And I'm fine with that. It's still funny. It's just mindless humor, for the most part. And I see that Star Trek Discovery is starting to adopt a little bit of that from the Orville. Not too much, but in a couple of places, I've noticed that Star Trek Discovery has at least tried to do some Orville-style humor. It's downplayed quite a bit, but it's still pretty obvious.
Yes, of course. Bless you.
I had a cold last week, which sucked. Sorry, 6 nasal canals.
And I don't really think it works too well in Star Trek Discovery. It works for the Orville because the Orville is set up as a comedy show. But Star Trek has always been a mystery sort of naval drama that's about exploration. Now, that's not to say that you can't have humor in a show like that, but it has to evolve naturally from the characters, and it has to be sort of believable in a setting like that. If you're just going to have a bunch of fast-paced jokes, it's not going to work very well, I don't think, in a type of show that Star Trek has traditionally been. right? In the original series, it was because Spock, Kirk, and Bones were sort of all bickering with one another. In the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, it was, for the most part, a lot more clever than that, but not always. Right? Sometimes in the Next Generation, when Diana's mother came along, it was basically just mother-in-law jokes, basically. That's the vibe I got from some of those. But in Star Trek Discovery, they seem to have just imported a character from the Orville, Dan, who's just a sort of random character there just to make you laugh for no reason. And they seem to have imported it, downplayed a bit, but imported him into Star Trek Discovery, except he has clicking and popping language and he has bigger eyes. And I just don't think it fits in Star Trek Discovery, and it just makes it obvious as to what they're trying to do. They're trying to emulate the Orville, because the Orville is more popular. And I don't think that's the direction Star Trek should take. Right? The creators of Star Trek Discovery should take a look at what made The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and maybe even Voyager so great. Seth MacFarlane, having worked on Star Trek Enterprise, already sort of knows what makes Star Trek work. And that's why he's so successful with the Orville. And because Star Trek Discovery is written by people that have no experience with anything Star Trek previously, that's why the first season of Star Trek, at least, didn't come across very well with Star Trek fans. But I will continue watching Star Trek Discovery. I said before that if Star Trek Discovery isn't good by season 3, I'll give up on it. Because if you look at the other Star Treks, even the Next Generation, the first season or two of that, and same with Deep Space Nine and Voyager, it just wasn't really all that good. You know, they were still trying to find trying to figure out everything, how to make it work. So I'm willing to give Star Trek Discovery a chance up to the 3rd season. If it still sucks by the 3rd season, I'll stop watching. But from what I've seen of Star Trek, from what I've seen of season 2 of Star Trek Discovery, I think it's going to be good. So yeah, I'll keep watching it, and I'm actually kind of interested to see how this whole Red Angel thing or whatever is going to play out, and how Spock and Burnham's sort of family squabble is going to be playing out too. It seems interesting. So peace, and now we have 2 Star Trek shows to watch: The Orville and Discovery, and they both come on the same day. The only problem with Star Trek Discovery is the only way to watch it is to either buy CBS's streaming service or pirate it. I will not tell you which one I've done.